Yesterday, we looked back at the 2024 year. Today, let's predict 2025. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. A little bit late today. Sorry about that, but we got El Natural Light, so that's pretty cool. Thanks so much for all of your support. Again, yesterday we did predictions for yesterday we looked back at 2024, and today we'll do 5 predictions. They do seem to be West heavy, but c'est la vie, we do have one for the East. And then we'll preview tonight's basketball matchups. And as we're back in the basketball, Friday we will recap the basketball and preview the last bowl game as Texas State is playing in the first Responder Bowl. All right. Okay. So again, these are only 5, and they are West heavy. I admit it. All right. I will take the flack for that. Although the first one does include an Eastern team. Okay, so this one may be the craziest of all. All right, ULM or Georgia State will make a bowl game, and it's obviously not that crazy for ULM. They needed to win one more game. Schedule got much harder at the end than it did at the beginning of the season. Georgia State could not capitalize on their win over Vandy, which we saw was actually a better win than we first presumed it would be when they had it. Vandy kind of had, the middle to the end of their season wasn't all that great, but they finished on a high note. And Georgia State's got the number 1 recruiting class coming in, and they did a good job with the transfer portal. And we'll see. I'm presuming it's Zach Gibson going to be the quarterback moving forward, and we'll see if there's a big step up in year 2 for Del McGee. Now, there's a big difference between what Del McGee got the job and when everybody else gets the job, right? Most coaches are getting the job already. They got the job in December. Del McGee got the job, didn't get the job in March, right? They already were starting their spring practice. They were 2 practices into spring ball when Sean Elliott said, yeah, I'm going to South Carolina to be the tight ends coach. Thanks so much. So he was talk about doing this on the fly. I make a big deal about, trying to get a coaching staff together, trying to move your family, get the kids in school, do the kids and the wife stay behind, trying to find a house and all of that, and trying to get kids in the portal, and, trying to set up a recruiting staff and all of that. And now he's trying to do that on the fly while we're going to start spring practice back up again. And so he was trying to do that all on the fly. So now, they should be able to take a big step in year number 2. Here's the other thing I would do if I was Georgia State. It's a little thing. You can only do so much playing in their stadium with their fans. I'm putting everybody on the same side. If we got to put Georgia State on one side of the stadium, we're putting Georgia State on one side of the stadium. If that's in the sun, that's in the sun. I don't know. I don't know about those logistics. But I'm going to put however many people are in the stadium, I'm putting them on the opposite side of the cameras. So if that's 3,000 or 4,000 people, they're all on one side. And I'm going to block off that part of the stadium. So that's what it looks like on TV, because it looks awful on TV. So that's what I'm going to do. That's my one suggestion for Georgia State, because if we do happen to have 6,000 to 10,000, say it does get a high of 10,000, then it looks pretty good if you put them all in one spot where they're behind the benches on the side where we can see them on TV behind whatever bench is on the far side of the field. That would be my one suggestion. And we'll see if ULM can capitalize on this season. It was a little bit odd, obviously a little bit different between what Marshall was going through with Charles Huff, and maybe he was doing it on the down low. I don't know. Fans have one situation. Christian Spears says they were upfront about it. He was upfront about it. Bryant Vincent was upfront about his playing footsie with Jacksonville State. He stayed at ULM. Obviously, if he has another productive season, he's going to think about moving on. We'll see. Again, ULM can only do so much. Resources are limited there, and that's the deal when it comes to ULM. So I don't know how much you can commit to that, but I love what he's doing there, and we'll see if he can take ULM to the next level. It is interesting, right? It's all a matter of what expectations are. All right. The Cajuns' expectations are to contend for the Sun Belt title every year, basically. All right. Texas State's expectations are hopefully a winning season and a bowl game. That's it. Now, this year they were supposed to contend for the Sun Belt title, and they didn't. I wouldn't say they fell flat on their face because they could win 9 games. But there are expectations. G.J. Kinney, though, because they turned around the program, making $2 million, right? Last week, people wanted to fire Mike Desimo because he's had 2 bad games in a row. So expectations are a different level between what Texas State wants, what ULM wants, and what the Cajuns expect. So it's a different level of expectation. Same thing with Southern Miss, right? Southern Miss expects to championship level, I guess, right? Marshall is championship level. Georgia Southern is championship level. James Madison, championship level. Texas State, ULM, not so much. They want to win 7, 8, 9 games, go to a bowl game, and if they contend once in a blue moon, fantastic. All right. Now, however, that's not how they're getting paid. G.J. Kinney's getting paid as if he's won a couple of Sun Belt championships, and he hasn't. Now, he did win a bowl game, and Mike Desimo did win. His first game was a win of a bowl game, but he hasn't won since he's been a head coach all on his own. I consider he won a bowl game, but, that was obviously taking over for Billy Napier. All right, so that was one. ULM and Georgia State win a bowl game in 2025. Number 2, all right? And I don't think this is all that crazy. This is number 4, as it turns out, all right? Southern Miss doesn't come in last in Sun Belt West. I probably should have a thought in there. All right. I'm not sure Southern Miss is going to contend. It's a lot to go from 1 win to 9 or 10 wins. But Charles Huff did bring a whole bunch of players with him, including a lot of guys on offense, including quarterback Braylon Braxton, and a lot of guys on defense, including Josh Moten, the quarterback. So I don't think it's going to take a whole lot to be a lot better. But again, that's a big step from going from 1 to 9 or 10 wins. But it's also not that big a step to go from 1 to 5 or 6 to 7 wins. So I don't think Southern Miss is coming in last. I don't know who's going to come in last, but that's a different story. I just don't think Southern Miss is going to come in last. I don't think that's that crazy. All right. So that is number 4. Trying to be positive, but this is part portal and part NIL. All right. And this is going to be sad. All right. And again, this is where we're West biased. All right. Ragin Cajun softball streak comes to an end. The Ragin Cajun softball team has not lost a softball weekend series, Sunbelt series, not weekend series, a Sunbelt softball weekend series since I think March 13. So over a decade, right? That's 89 straight. They have not had a bad weekend. Haven't had a bad call, haven't had a bad bounce, whatever the case may be, in 89 straight. And they were set. I think they were set with all the girls coming back, add a couple of girls in the transfer portal, and they very well could have, again, contended for a super regional and a chance at Oklahoma City. Talk about expectations. It should be super regional and a chance to go to Oklahoma City. I just don't think, trying to win a national championship, that's the teams that they're playing is really hard. That's another level. But the girls are transferred, the coach leaving. That's more NIL. I think they'll still contend in the Sun Belt. I just think to keep that going. I don't think the roster is depleted, but I think a lot of talent left. I think some came in, but I think some talent did leave. And I think that 89 Sunbelt streak is on the line here in 2025. All right, number 2. This may be the most challenging. I could have taken it one step further, but I think that's a little bit too much in this day and age. I think a Sunbelt team makes the Super Regional weekend. I don't know who that's going to be. Cajuns, Southern Miss, Texas State, or Troy. And I don't think they're going to be able to hit their way. You're really going to need a lot of pitching. That is the way they're going to get there. They're going to need extra pitching is the way they're going to do it. And what I saw last year with the Cajuns, you really have to piece that together. And you have to rest your guys in the regular season is what you got to do. You got to make sure you have enough to get through that regional. And if that means not winning the Sun Belt Conference tournament, you got to make sure you're going to get there. So you got to have a good regular season to make sure your RPI is good enough. And I think some teams have scheduled their that way. All right. And so I think my number 5 was the most difficult. I don't think the other ones were all that controversial. Obviously, I think 3 is the saddest, but the easiest one is the Sun Belt remains the Fun Belt. I think we're going to get the craziness continues with, a coach winning a conference championship and leaving for another school within the same conference. I mean, that is, to me, insanity. I don't think that's going to happen again, but that's the kind of thing that I think will continue. I think the games are fun. I think the officiating is awful, but that makes it more interesting. And I just think it's a lot of fun. The Sun Belt is a family. I think what happened, the tragedy that happened in Boone with the storm at Helene, I think the Sun Belt coming together shows you what it's all about. And I think we're in store for another tremendous 2025. And we'll see. I was going to say maybe winning an NCAA tournament game. We very well could see that. We very well could see Arkansas State. I'm not sure South Alabama has the size for that. They're a little lacking in size. But we could see one of those two teams make a nice run in basketball. So those are my predictions. A little long in the segment. What are your predictions? Give me some predictions. And I admit those were heavy on the West. Let me know what you guys think in the East. Give me some predictions over from the East. All right, we'll come back. We'll talk about some hoops that are happening tonight. Sun Belt basketball resuming tonight. We'll do that right after I tell you about FanDuel. NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It is thrilling. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance for $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, we got basketball tonight. Full slate of Sunbelt basketball. So quickly, there's only been one ball game so far in the conference. That happened before the end of the year, right? It happened before Christmas, I'd like to think. Well, let me see the date that it happened. 2024 season. Troy played Georgia State. Let's see when they haven't played a game since. So let me see when Troy beat Georgia State, December 21st. So Troy hasn't played a ball game in a good, 9, 10, 11, 12 days. So it's been a minute since Troy has done a game. My understanding is that there would be no math, and apparently there is math. So it's been a minute. So let's recap the standings. Again, these are teams that have won a game versus the teams that lost a game. Arkansas State, South Alabama, Troy, Texas State, Southern Miss, Old Dominion, and the Cajuns. The Cajuns, maybe the surprise. They beat App State and then fired their coach, Bob Marlin. All right. On the other side, Coastal, Georgia Southern, James Madison, Marshall, App State, Georgia State, and Monroe all did fall in their season openers. Now, a couple of teams did have some games earlier. Well, can we? Okay. We did have some games. Was that? Yeah. Southern Miss and South Alabama did get a couple of games in with crosstown foes on Monday. So they did get some games in. And then we had some games last weekend. So some teams have played, right? Mercer actually beat Georgia State last Saturday. Old Dominion got a game in. Marshall lost to Elon. And on Sunday, Coastal got a game in. James Madison got a game in. And Texas State did lose to UT Arlington. So some teams, compared to Troy, did get a game in since their conference opener. Okay, so starting tonight, App State taking on Troy. App State is 6-6. Troy 8-4. We used to have kind of a head-to-head deal, a little bit here. Troy's averaging 75 points a game. App is 70 points a game. They're both giving up about 65 points a ball game. They both shoot about the same. Troy is a 2.5-point favorite on the road. I wanted to see home and road records. See if we got that. Let's see here. Troy has lost. Troy has lost at Arkansas. I don't, no shame in that, but I don't think they played very well in that ball game either. I watched that ball game and they kept on turning the ball over. At Oregon, again, no shame in that. They did beat West Georgia, a little bit lower of a level. They lost at Houston. Again, no shame at that. I didn't watch that ball game. And those are their only. So they've only played, or they lost, or they did beat New Orleans. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 road games so far, and they've lost 1, 2, 3 of them. But those 3 are Arkansas, Oregon, and Houston. So, take that for what it's worth, right? And so they beat New Orleans, which is on the Sun Belt level. App has, let's see what App has done so far this year. I don't think they've beaten anybody any good. They did beat Colgate, and I think Colgate gave Syracuse a run for their money. Syracuse, in all due respect, is not very good. App is on a little bit of a losing streak. They lost to High Point by 6. They lost to the Cajuns by 6, and they just lost at North Texas. And they did beat Mid-Atlantic by over 40, but they lost to UNC Wilmington by 15. They've actually lost 4 out of 5, and that's coming off a 4-game winning streak. They beat Queens, William and Mary, Sam Houston, and Colgate, and they've only won that Mid-Atlantic game since. So this is a big ball game, and they're starting off with 4 of these games at home. They got Troy, Texas State this weekend, and then Coastal Carolina and James Madison next weekend. So this is a big spot for App. They got to turn things around and turn it around in a hurry if they're going to get off to a good start. they need or contend in the Sun Belt. They got to win 3 of these 4 ball games, basically. Going 2-2 at home is not going to do them any good whatsoever. All right. Also tonight, out east, James Madison hosting Southern Miss. And obviously, James Madison has not played particularly well this year, coming off their NCAA tournament berth last year. Obviously, some guys left. Saw Terrence Edwards last night. A little scared shooting. That was kind of odd. He was kind of distributing the ball. Didn't even shoot well from the free throw line last night. But Louisville did beat Carolina. That was a lot of fun. Want to thank my brother Seth and went with my nephew Sam. And we'll get to how we got the tickets in a little bit. JMU actually favored by 12.5. There's a reason for that. They're averaging about 74.5 points a game. Southern Miss, almost 72 points a game. It hasn't been a great year for either of these teams. Southern Miss, though, I'm not sure has won a game on the road all year. They lost at UAB. They lost at South Dakota. They lost at Montana State. They lost at Tulane. They lost at Ole Miss. They haven't won a road game. Now, some of those games are good. Or no, they lost to Ole Miss at home. I'm sorry. They lost to Lamar at home. So they haven't won a road game yet. JMU, I'm not sure how good they are either. They lost to Norfolk State on the road. They lost to Townsend on the road. They got blown out by South Alabama, which was surprising. They lost to Wake, which obviously nice to play Wake, but got beat badly. Lost to George Mason at home. They did beat Jacksonville State. Lost to UC San Diego. Did beat Illinois Chicago, and they lost to Townsend. So it seems like a big spread, if you ask me. I would presume JMU is going to win this ball game, but at 11.5 seems like a lot. All right, one more ball game we'll go over, and then we will take a break. Georgia State hosting South Alabama. I would say this is, Georgia State's got to start to win, or we're going to have a coach on a hot seat, if not already. Another spot where Georgia State starting off with 4 games at home. They have to win 3 of these 4 home games. I mean, they get the Cajuns next. Cajuns aren't any good. They get Georgia Southern. They're a 500 club. They're much improved. And they're getting Coastal. They got 3 of these ball games are absolutely winnable. South Alabama, I think, is one of the better teams in the conference. South Alabama, this is a game that they have to win. They got to go on the road and win this ball game. Can't take that for granted. South Alabama is this game opened up at 7.5 for South Alabama. It's down to 4.5. So I don't know why that is. South Alabama coming off a huge win over Mobile. You can't take anything away from that outside of, again, watch the turnovers. Okay. South Alabama does not turn the ball over. They are averaging less than 9 turnovers a ball game. They are incredibly good. They average over 10 steals a game. Georgia State averages less than 6. That's a good bet. I like South Alabama minus 4.5 in this ball game. That seems to be, to me, easy money. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll go over the rest of the ball games in tonight's action when we come back, and I tell you about Game Time. Attending the new 12-team college football games is an incredible experience that brings fans together like never before. I remember the excitement of past playoff games and can't wait to make new memories with the updated format and extra teams involved. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier, filters out the fluff to show only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, actually, my brother used Game Time Picks to find tickets for that Louisville-Carolina basketball game that we went to last night. Browsing through the deals was a breeze, and he found great value for all kinds of seats around the Yum Center. The Super Deal in particular stood out as the best value for the event. He loved that he could see the seat views before buying and that the app showed the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, the on-time ticket delivery and the lowest price guarantee gave him complete peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, let's continue with tonight's college basketball action. Sunbelt, full slate of Sunbelt action as we go into the first full weekend. We have picked Troy over App State. James Madison going to beat Southern Miss. I'm not too sure about the 11.5. And it seems like easy pickings. There's sort of scared over that South Alabama 4.5 over Georgia State, but that seems way too easy. Georgia Southern, 10.5 points favorites over ULM. Let's see where that game started. That game started at 9.5. It's up to 10.5. Again, Charlie Henry doing a yeoman's work there. Remember, Georgia Southern, for whatever you want to say, keep on hammering this, but I will not stop. Started 0-12 last year. Started out 0-12. They're 7-6 this year. So, obviously, exponentially improved. Monroe is flat out struggling. Although they can put up some points, oddly enough, Georgia Southern gives up more points than they score. They average about 74.5 points a game. They're giving up almost 79. So Georgia Southern doesn't play a whole lot of defense. So they must have gotten blown out here a couple of times. They gave up 92 to UNC Wilmington. They gave up 102 to William and Mary. They gave up 89 to VCU in a win over North Florida. They gave up 91. So they don't play a whole lot of defense. They lost 83-61 to Texas State. Monroe is just 4-10. Let's see who they've beaten. Champ Christian. I'm not sure what that is. Ecclesia. I'm not sure what that is. That they beat them. They've scored a lot in those two games, 111 and 110. Their other win is Northwestern State. They hung on for a 65-63 victory, and they did beat Arkansas Pine Bluff 89-73. They gave Old Dominion a run for their money, 80-75. They're struggling. Their coach did announce his retirement, but he's staying on for the rest of the year. We'll see what they can do. Unlike the teams we've mentioned, they're starting off with 4 road games at Georgia Southern, at Coastal, at Southern Miss, and at the Cajuns. I mean, some of those games are winnable. None of those teams are the most formidable games. Those are all winnable, but they're all on the road. And the thing is, all those teams are looking at ULM as like those are must wins for those teams. So we'll see how that goes. I would take Georgia Southern. Seems like a lot of points, though, because ULM can score a little bit. All right, ULM can score. All right, let's see who else we got tonight. Marshall hosting Texas State. Marshall, a surprising 1.5 point favorite, maybe because they are hosting, and Texas State with a little surprising loss to UT Arlington. Both teams averaging right around 77 points a game. Texas State gives up less than 70 points a game. Texas State gives up 68. Marshall gives up over 72 points a game. Texas State shoots it better, 48-44. Interesting. Let's see what Texas State is on the road. Again, winning on the road is hard. They've lost. They gave TCU a run for their money, lost by 5, 76-71. Did lose. They actually played better against TCU. They lost to Abilene Christian on the road, 72-60. Lost to Texas Southern by 13. They lost to FAU by 9. They haven't won on the road yet. That's why they're favored. That's why they're underdogs. So they haven't won on the road yet. So I think Texas State is a better team, but because Marshall's at home, my rule is this is going to come out wrong, but my rule is to bet on good teams to play good and bad teams to play bad. I don't generally bet on bad teams to play good. I would stay away from that one. I think Texas State should win the basketball game, but obviously wouldn't be surprised if Marshall wins the game. They're favored. They're at home. I would stay away from that one. I think, just because I think Texas State should win, but they haven't won on the road yet. All right. Okay. Let's continue. So this, again, I don't understand the matchup predictor compared to the odds. No, it's very odd when it comes to that. Coastal Carolina taking on the Cajuns. Coastal Carolina should win this one. Coastal Carolina is 7-6. Cajuns 3-10. I don't think this year was Bob Marlin's fault. I guess he didn't go out and get replacement for the guys who left. Contingy got hurt, which is nothing you can do when he gets hurt right at the end of camp. You can't change. You got to come up with a way that you're going to change the way you're going to play. That's what Richie Riley did. He doesn't play zone. And that's what they're playing now. And he plays an aggressive style of zone because they don't have any size. He's usually plays man-to-man, and he usually has a shot blocker back there, but he doesn't have that. So he's got to do something different. And they play a frenetic style of zone. I guess Bob Marlin didn't really change, and they can't really stop anybody, and they can't score. Cajuns, even when they have played well, they don't score very much. So we'll see what Coastal Carolina can do at home. Coastal is 7-6. Cajuns are 3-10. And to tell you, what the odds maker thinks of Coastal, they're only 2.5-point favorites. So we'll take Coastal Carolina at home tonight. And then to wrap things up, Old Dominion, who's actually playing a little bit better. They've won 2 in a row. They went on the road and beat Monroe. Again, winning on the road is hard. And they beat Virginia Wesleyan. Take that for what it's worth, 82-44. They're going to get a big test. Their last 2 losses, they've actually played pretty well, right? George Washington and Northeastern, they lost 78-70 and 75-71. Some of their other losses have been a little bit ugly. And now they're getting the top dog, pun intended, taking on Arkansas State. So they're going to find out what their issues are right away so they can make the adjustments for the rest of the Sun Belt. So Mike Jones in his first year as head coach at his alma mater, trial by fire, so to speak. So that's the first matchups in the first full weekend of Sun Belt play. We'll recap the ball games in tomorrow's episode, and we'll preview the Texas State bowl game as well coming up on Friday. Again, I know a little bit late, but c'est la vie. Had the day off, so we figured we would do it today. And we also went a little bit long. Let me know what your predictions are for 2025 in the Sun Belt. And I know those were Sun Belt West heavy. It is what it is. Again, thank you so much for coming along, playing along with me all 2024. We're looking forward to another fantastic year in 2025. I am Dave Schultz, and you've been listening and watching to Locked On Sun Belt, your teams every day. Have a great Tuesday. I'm sorry. Who knows what day it is anymore. Have a great Thursday, everybody. Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you again on Friday.